Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. I hope that you are all good. In today's video, I have a Modelones Polygel kit to share with you all. So this is their Hollywood Daylight Polygel kit. They kindly sent me this to do a review on, so I thought I would swatch all the colours for you all and then do a quick one nail design on one of my nails to just give you a rough idea of what the products are like and what I think of them. So this is the kit. You get a handy instruction leaflet showing you various ways to use the polygel. It's a great little step-by-step, especially if you are a beginner. You then also get a pack and a box of plastic jewel forms. So I'm not going to be using these in today's video because they're not something I've played around with much myself, to be honest. So I want to have another little play around and then I'll try and include using them in a video. Then we have a 100/180 grit file. And then here is the main parts of our polygel kit. So here you've got your poly nail gel, which is like your slip solution. I did find this slightly thicker than a lot of the other slip solutions that I've tried, and it's definitely thicker than using, say, an alcohol. And I did, though, however, find it really easy to work with once I had got the hang of it. You then also get a really nice brush and picker. So this is a brush on one end and a spatula on the other end. Then we've got our polygel colours. So we've got 015, which is a cover pink, 013, which is a clear. And by the way, this is a really crystal clear polygel as well. Then we've got 004, which is a lighter cover pink, 016, which is a black and gold glitter. Then we have 031, which is a grey polygel. Like I said, we are going to swatch these, so I'll show you them a bit more in depth then. And then we have 104, which is a full-on glitter polygel. And then as well as that, you get your top and base coats. I really liked these top and base coats as well. They've got really nice packaging as well, which I quite liked. And then lastly, we have some glitter and some crystals, which I did struggle to get out of the box. So here we have a little mix of crystals. There's some purple ones, some clear ones. It's nice that they've included some teardrop shapes as well, rather than just your regular circle ones. And then here is a really, really pretty glitter mix. I'm definitely going to try and use this in a set of nails soon because it's super pretty. And one of my favourite styles of glitter mixes are these iridescent ones. So like I said, I wanted to swatch all the colours. So I'm just going to open up the bottle of slip solution and I'm just going to pour that into a dappen dish, and then I'm going to take the brush they have sent. So I'm going to open up both sides so you can take a look that there's a brush on one end and a spatula on the other end. Pretty standard for a polygel brush. I'm just going to flick my finger through the bristles to soften them because it's the first time using it, and then I'm going to dip it into that slip solution just to get it ready to use. Now let's take a look at the colours. So here we have 004, which is a light pink cover pink. Now I'm going to say it's a cover pink. It's definitely a cover pink, but it is slightly sheerer than the other cover pink that's in the collection. But it's still a really nice, pretty pink, and you definitely could build it up and get a nicer coverage with this. So as you can see, I've moistened my brush and I'm just working on the underside of a swatch stick. So I'm kind of just trying to press and pat this out into a thin layer. And here you're able to see what I meant by it's a cover pink, but it is slightly sheer compared to the other one that's in the kit, which you will see next, I believe. And I was really pleased that they did include two cover colours in the kit. The other one's more of a peachy pink and a little bit more opaque, but I love the fact that they've given you two options, so you've got a variety, because depending on the style of nails you're doing, sometimes a lighter pink suits compared to a darker pink, and also sometimes when you're working on different skin tones you'll find that different colours suit. So I'm just coming in with that second bead of polygel, placing it down in that cuticle area, and I'm just patting this out to the sides and pulling it down the nail. I didn't want to add a too thick layer, but I did want it to be thick enough for you guys to see what the colour and coverage would be like. And here you can see it's a really pretty baby pink colour. It was really easy to work with, and I definitely think if you built it up, so if once you'd built up your apex and things like that, it would look a little bit more opaque than what it does here. So then we have the next one, which like I said, you can see straight away it's a lot more pigmented. It is more on the darker peachy side, but it is just more opaque, which again, so for example, if I was doing something like a French nail or a full cover nude, I would reach for this one. But if I wanted to do something like an ombre or a glitter fade where I don't want as much full coverage, I might go for the 004 because it would be easier to fade and blend out. I'm definitely going to have a play around with both of the colours and try and think up some designs to share with you guys so that I can show you guys that. I am still learning a lot when it comes to polygel. It's definitely not something that I feel ready to do tutorials on as such because I still have lots to learn about it myself, but I am finding that it's a really lovely product to work with once you get the hang of working with it. I do seem to go through phases where I have better nowadays with it than other days, but it was exactly the same as when I was learning to work with acrylic and builder gels. It just takes practice. So here I'm just blending that back. I did apply a little bit more than what I needed to, so it ended up over spilling. But just look at the coverage on this colour. It is absolutely gorgeous. I think this colour, sorry, was my favourite in the collection. Then here we have 031, which is a really deep grey. Now this was my first time using one of the Modelones Polygel coloured polygels. I've used their pinks and their clear before, but I haven't used a coloured one. And it did have a slightly different consistency to the pinks. Not so much the consistency, but I felt as though it worked a little bit different when I was patting and pressing it out. It kind of flowed a little bit easier. It didn't feel as thick, if that makes sense. So it was a really easy colour to work with. You can see here it's smoothing and moving down the nail really easily. I'm also trying to not use too much slip solution on my brush, but with this particular slip solution here, it was a bit thicker, like I said, than alcohol. So I did feel as though whenever I dipped into my brush into it, I picked up quite a lot. So I did at times sometimes dab off any excess just so I wasn't adding too much into the product. But at the same time, I did prefer working with this compared to working with an alcohol as a slip solution. So I've just added another bead of that polygel on, probably added way more than I needed. So I'm just blending that back and trying to keep everything as neat as possible and trying to keep it all in that swatch stick. It was a little bit tricky. This is the first time I've swatched polygel in these swatch sticks, and it was a little bit tricky when you're trying to move it and manipulate it into place into that well of the swatch stick. So I'm curing each of these, by the way, for 60 seconds in my LED lamp, and I will obviously at the end show you all of the colours together. So here we have here we have 104, which is a gorgeous glitter polygel. So it has a bit of a clear base, and then you've got those chunky and fine glitter pieces in there. So it's a full-on multi-cut glitter. It was really easy to work with. Because of the glitter in there, it was a bit of a thicker consistency. But again, it was still really easy to work with. I was able to pat and pull it nice and easily down the nail. So I'm just trying to stretch this out and get a nice, smooth, even application. And because it's a glitter, you can build this up. So if you wanted it to have more glitter coverage, you could apply 2 thin layers, or if you wanted to fade it out, you could also do that as well. I found 1 medium to thin layer would be sufficient enough to get full-on glitter coverage like I have here. And just look how beautiful those glitter pieces are. And a silver glitter like this is a must-have because you just get lots of use out of those kind of colours all year round. So then we have a 016. Now this one has more of a deep, I want to say black, like a dark grey / black base, and then it's got these a lot finer glitter pieces in it compared to the previous one. Again, it applied very similar to the previous one, although it felt a little bit thicker. It glided down the nail nice and easily, so it made it really easy to work with. So I've got a fair bit of the slip solution on my brush here, and you can see I'm just pulling that down the nail. It doesn't quite reach all the way to the very tip of the nail, but rather than coming in with another bead, I just let it fade out because that way you could see the different ways of building up coverage with this. So you could blend it out to create a really nice glitter fade. Because it's a finer glitter, you're able to blend it out and create that faded effect, as you can see here, where if you apply it and don't blend it out as much, you're going to get that more full-on glitter coverage like what we have up at the cuticle and apex area. This is such a gorgeous one, especially going into the autumn and winter months. So like I said, I cured all of these in my LED lamp for 60 seconds, and this is all of the colours. I didn't swatch the clear because it's clear, but we're going to use that further along in the video anyway. Let me know in the comments below which one you liked the most. For me, it was definitely the darker peach cover pink. I just thought it was gorgeous. So off camera, I have prepped my nail and applied a tip as well as a peel off base coat. That is why my nail already looks a little bit shiny before applying the base coat, just because I knew I wouldn't be keeping this one nail on. So just popping down that peel off base coat means I can pop it off after. And I have only applied that base coat on my natural nail. You don't need to take it all the way up on to the tip that you've applied. One thing I wanted to point out, which I didn't do in this video, is I didn't remove the shine from that tip that I've applied, which I would really recommend doing whenever you're working with polygel or a gel-based product. I personally like to just buff the shine slightly from the plastic tips before I come in and apply my product, but I completely forgot when I was doing this video. So here I'm coming in with the 015 polygel, and we're going to be doing a French nail. So I picked up a bead of the polygel, dipped my brush into the slip solution, and then I've placed it down on the nail, and I'm just patting it into place at the cuticle area to begin with. Now, because the polygel has that thicker consistency, it's not going to run and flood back into the cuticle area. It kind of just stays exactly where you place it down until you start moving it and manipulating it into place. However, I am still tilting my finger downwards slightly just because I find that easier to then push the product up into the cuticle area and get as close to that cuticle without touching the skin. And then I've tried to get that nice and flush around that cuticle area, so I've not got a huge ridge. I will file it further to blend it in. And then as you can see, I've just patted and pressed that that polygel down the nail, and I'm just creating the shape of my extended nail bed. So I did find this step quite easy to do, as in getting the shape of the smile line, because you've got plenty of playtime with the product. Once I was happy with my smile line shape, I popped that into Cure, then I've wiped off that tacky layer, and here I'm just going to come in with the 100 grit side of the file and just perfect that shape a little bit more, crisp it up so it's nice and sharp, and just basically getting it until I'm really happy with it. I'd done a lot of the work with the brush and getting the product into place, so I didn't exactly have too much filing to do. Once I'm happy with how the shape is looking, I'll brush away all of that dust, give the nail a good scrub, and then we can move on to the next step. I'm just checking from all angles so that I'm happy, making sure that it's as symmetrical as possible. French is one of those things that I do struggle with a little bit. So it wasn't perfect, especially seeing as this was my first time also doing a French nail with polygel in a very long time. So it wasn't perfect, but I was still quite pleased with how it turned out and how easy it was to do. So here I'm just making sure to brush away all of that dust. The polygel does file really easily, so you don't have to spend too long filing into shape. Now for the tip end of my French, I'm going to be using a combination of the grey polygel and the silver glitter polygel. So what I'm doing is I'm starting off with that 031. I'm taking a fairly small size bead of the polygel because I don't really want to build up any thickness with this. I kind of just want to get a thin layer down on mostly the entire nail. I don't need it to be right at the tip, because right at the tip is where I'm going to be applying my glitter, but I want to make sure I've got a thin layer going down those side walls. Now I did find this a little bit tricky because I haven't done a polygel French. I think I've only done it once before, which was a very long time ago, so it's not something that I'm overly confident in doing, but I'm trying my best to basically get the polygel right down the wings of that nail without getting any on the skin. So I'm just doing my best to pat it down to get that thin layer and then to just move and manipulate it down. But I did struggle a little bit at this step, so I do faff around and take my time. But once I was happy with how it was down at the very wings of the nail, I'm just going to pat out the rest of that polygel just so that it's not too lumpy, bumpy or uneven. Like I said, I don't really need it to be full coverage at the very tip of the nail, as that's where I'm going to come in with my glitter. So I'm blending a lot of that polygel back just to make sure that I've got enough right up against that smile line and right down in those side walls. That's where I mainly want to be focusing this grey polygel. If I was doing a full grey tip, I can't get my words out today. If I was doing a full grey tip, I would make sure that it covers the entire nail, and I probably would have built up the entire nail with the colour as well. But we are going to pop a little bit glitter down at the tip and then encapsulate that with the clear. So once I'm happy with the grey, I'm going to pop this into cure for 60 seconds, and then we're going to take the 104. Again, I'm only going to take a small amount of this because we really don't need a lot. We're only going to be applying it to a tiny section of the nail. So I've just took a small bead, placed that down at the very tip of the nail, dipped my brush back into the slip solution, and then I'm just patting that out to begin with. I want most of the coverage to be at the very tip of the nail, so I'm making sure that most of the glitter is there. And then I'm just going to start blending that back, going down those side walls slightly, so it kind of creates a bit of a glitter fade onto that grey base that we've applied. It doesn't matter too much if this goes over your pink extended nail bed because you can file off any of the excess, but I'm doing my best to keep it as neat as possible. So I then pop that into cure, and we're then going to take the 013. Now this was a super clear polygel, to be honest. I have heard others say that polygel is not always as clear as, say, an acrylic clear or a builder gel clear. I did find this one to be quite clear, but it was a bit of a thinner consistency to the other polygels in the kit, so I did find it a little bit difficult to work with at first. You definitely didn't need a lot of the slip solution to move it around in place, so I did find that I wiped off some of that excess of that onto a lint-free pad just to keep my brush nice and clean. And I'm mainly focusing this clear over the very tip of the nail and fading it back over where we've applied that glitter, just to make sure it's fully encapsulating the tip. And I'm also making sure that I've got enough thickness down at those side walls. I have built up the apex with the cover pink, so I don't need to add any clear polygel to build up the structure. I'm more just making sure that I've got enough coverage where the glitter fades into the grey, and also because I had only applied a thin layer of the grey, I want to make sure that I have got the clear going over a lot of that, just so the tip wouldn't snap off if I was wearing it. And then pop the clear in to cure for 60 seconds. Then I'm just taking a lint-free pad and removing the tacky layer before we come in and file. Now it was a little bit tricky to file on camera. It's not something that I'm used to doing, but I'm basically starting off with the 100 grit side of my file, just bringing some of that shape back. I did lose a little bit of the shape when I was applying the product, so the free edge did end up a little bit bulky and the shape looked a little bit bulky. So I'm taking down some of that to begin with, and then I'm going to go over the entire surface of the nail. Now, as I said previous in the video, I am far from experienced with polygel, so my application wasn't as neat as possible. So I did have a fair bit of filing to do just to get a nice smooth surface. But one of the bonuses with polygel is it files nice and easily. So it didn't take me too long to get a shape that I was happy with. Then once I've removed a lot of the bulk, I'm just going to come back in and crisp and neaten up my side walls and my free edge just until I'm happy with that shape. I then give the nail a quick buff and then made sure to clean away all of the dust before coming in with the Modelones top coat. So I'm then going to apply that top coat, and that's going to bring back all the lovely shininess from both the pink, grey and glitter. So I'm just applying a thin layer of this to the entire nail, and you can really see here how pretty that glitter looks over the grey base. So I then popped my glitter in to cure for 60 seconds, and this, guys, is the finished result. So I had a lot of fun playing around with this kit, and I definitely would try and get a few more videos up on the channel using it. So do keep an eye out for those. I really hope you all enjoyed the video. If you did, then please do give it a thumbs up or leave me a comment below. And if you haven't already subscribed, I would absolutely love it if you did. All of the products will be linked in the description box below, so do check that out. Thank you all so much for watching. Lots of love. Bye bye.